Well, here we are at the Specht cabin, which was formerly Mr. Conklin's cabin, and I just wanted to make a quick little video here of some of the Indian activity. And the Spechts here have a wonderful example of the grind holes that the Yokut Indians made. These were the original human settlers of Poso Park. So Poso Park's human history really didn't begin in 1913. It began when the Yokut Indians got here. So let's see, on this particular rock, which is beautifully covered with moss on this autumn day, looks like we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grind holes there that they would grind their acorns in. And then back here, let's see, at least visible right now, looks like about 3. Quite a deal. The Indians knew a beautiful spot to gather around, and of course they would move around as the seasons changed, going either lower elevation or higher. All right, here we are at the Carlisle cabins, 45259, known as Foxglove. And we're here to look at some fine examples of Indian grind holes. As I said before, today's present population of Poso Park weren't the first human beings to be here. And right here on the Carlisle property is one of the finest examples of Indian grind holes in the entire park. And as you can see, it's a big boulder situated right on Poso Creek in just a beautiful location. And you can see why the Yokut Indians chose this property right here to do these grind holes and grind their acorns. And I'd just like to go through them with you. I had to kind of sweep off this rock, and I may have missed a few, but you can see there are just a number of these grind holes, some of them quite deep, and then here's a deep one, and right next to it, one where they started but didn't do very much. Here's another one that's maybe only 2 inches deep, ground right out of the solid granite. And let's just count them here. Looks to me like they're, unless I missed one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 grind holes. And as I said, hey, I very well could have missed some with all the detritus and pine needles and cedar things coming off the trees. So anyway, it's a beautiful spot, and one of the 2 locations located right in Poso Park that I know of that have Indian grind holes where they would grind their acorns. And I'll tell you what, they must have ground down their teeth a lot eating that acorn meal mixed with granite shavings. All right, here we are at a spot that ought to be recognizable to everyone that's familiar with Poso Park. Here's Poso Park Drive, and right down there is Roger and Randy Stancliffe's place. And of course, this was Mr. Conklin's property over here, now Stefan Specht. And of course, across the creek that you can't see from here are the Edwards. And there's the McKnight cabin, and right down here is where we have the Labor Day annual meeting, and that property is owned by Kevin Russell and his wife. Now, it's really unfortunate that when the county came through and put Poso Park Drive in, they chose to not go around this rock, but rather dynamite it and put in the road, because I'm sure they messed up some artifacts when they did that, because on top of this boulder are some real good examples of Indian grind holes and other Indian activity. Let's climb up there and take a look. Alright, so here we are up on top of the rock that I was describing to you, and of course here's Poso Park Drive going right by below. And here's one of the unusual things on top of this rock. There's a basin here that is like 2.5 feet by 3 feet that's been scooped out somehow by the Indians. Now, when I got here just now, it was full of water. We had a couple inches of rain about a couple weeks ago, so it was absolutely full. And as you see, I couldn't get all the water out, but just to give you an idea of how much work they went to, and I would like to know what they use this for. Maybe this is like the grand mixing bowl for all the acorn mush that they, or meal that they came up with. Here's a regular grinding hole, and there's several more really magnificent grinding holes here. Now, like I told you, the county, when they put this road through here back in the 30s, dynamited the rock, so there's a big split in it. And of course it ruined several of these grind holes. It split right through them. Here's one that I just showed you. Here's another one that the split goes through. Here's another one right there. Now here's one where they started a grind hole. It's just a shallow one, but there's some acorns all ready to be ground up in it. And of course here's another one of the grind holes that was split when they dynamited the rock. Now this area is just ripe with Indian grind holes. It must have been their favorite location. This is right behind the big rock, a real deep grind hole. And then we'll go on back, and right here is another one of these basins that I would sure like to know, number one, how they did it, and number two, what they were used for. Now we'll go on back further. You can just imagine the Indian women back here working on all their acorns, and they did it for quite a long time because these are real deep holes. Very nice examples. And on this same boulder, of course up on top, here's another one. A little bit in the shadows. Now the last one I'm going to show you takes a little bit of work to get to because it is really overgrown. Trees have fallen down. And you have to really want to get here to get back through all this, all these trees that are down. But we're going to make it. Alright, just look at this boulder. This is the furthest one back that I'm going to. But this boulder has 3 grind holes, a little one right here, and 2 deep ones. and you can see the manzanita growing over it. So the Indians haven't been here for a long time to have these big manzanita trees that have completely enveloped this rock. But anyway, very nice examples of Indian grind holes. Now we're going to venture across the little creek. We're on the east side of the entrance to the camp, and we're going to go over to the other side where there is a magnificent boulder with multiple grind holes. Okay, now we're on the west side of the entrance to the Sierra Christian camp, and right here is the boulder that we're going to take a closer look at. That was not the boulder. This is the boulder that is right above the one I just showed to you. And thank goodness, because this one is really covered over with oak leaves and dirt. And years ago I discovered this, probably 25 years ago, and it was completely covered with about 6 inches of dirt and oak leaves and everything else. So it won't be as hard to clean off this time. Well, now we're on the west side of the Sierra Christian camp, and I've just gotten through cleaning off this boulder, and I don't know if I uncovered everything, but the closest count I can come to right now is 23 grind holes on this rock. And this is right across the street from Roger and Randy Stancliffe. And it's a beautiful shady spot for them to work on their grind holes. And I'll just quickly scan over the rock. So these ladies were real busy at this spot. And again, as near as I can tell, 23 grind holes right here on this not huge boulder. Well, here we are just above Marshall Meadow. It's December 1st, 2013, and I've just driven from Poso Park to Marshall Meadow. To get here, I went up Camp Drive and turned right to go up to Sugarloaf, passed through Sugarloaf and went to Sugarloaf Village, and then watched for the sign that said Marshall Meadow Road. Now, the reason I came up here was to show everybody some more Indian activity, and this is, to me, a really amazing sight. You can see my shadow there, but here are some more of these basins that the Indians somehow made. And this basin right here, you can see it's filled up with water, is about 5.5 feet in diameter. And it's about 3.5 feet deep. And I took a stick and stuck it down in there and measured it. Now that was 3 to 3.5 feet to the lower edge. Now if you take a look at the upper edge, that's a good, 3 to 4 feet higher than that. And then here's the other thing. There's a low spot right here, and then there's another basin just as big as this one. Now it's got some grass growing in it, and it's filled up with leaves and cedar detritus and so on, and I'm not going to dig that out. And then, to further compound this mystery, right below this basin is a third basin. And it's just as big as the others. You can't see it very well because it's filled up right now with dirt. and logs and everything else. And I haven't got the energy right now to dig all that out. But it's a pretty amazing thing. To further compound the mystery to me, there isn't a stream here at Marshall Meadow. And maybe there was at one time, but there isn't now. And so, what was this used for? Now, the basins in Poso Park are impressive, but they're not nearly as impressive as these basins. And incidentally, it's my understanding that the Yokut Indians were nomadic. And of course, they would go up and down. These are the Yokut foothill Indians. They would go up and down in elevation and where they were going to stay, depending on food supply, depending on temperature, depending on where they liked it. So we're up now probably 6,000 feet. It's considerably cooler here than it was in Poso Park. Now, just in case somebody thinks that these basins are just naturally here and not the result of human activity, I'm going to walk back here maybe 20 yards and show everybody some of the Indian grind holes that are right here. So there's one, and here are 3 more that are right above the site where the basins were. Very nice ones too. So there was definitely Indian activity here. So anyway, that's a wrap on our examination of Native American activity here in the Posey area. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.